Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Today is Monday, August 2nd. It's an official council meeting. I ask for everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. To make this meeting official, I'd ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll, please.
Gutenkopf.
Here.
Hezet.
Here.
Shea.
Here.
Leader.
Here.
Rose. Absent. Graham.
Here.
Hipskin.
Here.
York. Absent. Nybo.
Here.
Healy.
Here.
Morley. Absent. Kennedy.
Here.
Mulliner.
Here.
Wagner. Absent. 10 present, 4 absent.
10 present, 4 absent. We have an official quorum. On to item 3, which is recognition of the decommission of Elmhurst Police Department Special Agent ICE. I'd ask Chief Neubauer to do the presentation, please.
Good evening and thank you. We're here to honor one of our own who is going to retire at the young age of 9 years old. Our police dog, Ice. Ice has been with us for 8 years, and that's a pretty good lifespan or a working span for a police dog. Ice brought a few of his friends that are coming into the council chambers. I'd like to introduce Ice's handler, Tony Poley, also, and thank all these officers that came. It's going to be one of those meetings. There you go.
There's limits.
Let them all get in here.
Order, order.
Happy to report that Ice is going to live with his handler, Tony, and we have a new dog now. We have a new dog named Diesel, which Tony will be the handler for. During Ice's career, he made over 40 successful tracks, got in a whole boatload of narcotics, and located all kinds of bad people, and also located a couple lost people, too. We're very, very proud of Ice. Ice works very closely, our canine program, with all these other officers in the community. Many of these officers come to our town when our dog's not available. Very pleased that everyone could be here. I think we have a couple other presentations, too, for Ice and Tony. Ice can now come out of the doghouse and live inside Tony's house. We keep him outside when they're working. He'll now be able to go in and sit on the couch in his retirement, which is great. Tony, I think you have the floor, and then we have a couple presentations.
First off, I'd like to thank everybody with the city for giving us the opportunity to have the canine program, Chief as well. I'd like to thank all these guys here. Without these guys, it'd be very hard. Without their dedication, their support, they help us train. They help us become a better team as well. I'd like to thank my wife and my kids. Okay, they put up with a lot over the years, as far as all the call-outs and everything else that we participate in. My wife bouncing her schedule around to accommodate for me whenever we get an active track. They said, you know, you got to come into work. Somebody's running from us. My wife would come home, man the kids, and I'd go out with Ice to try and find the bad guys. I'd also like to thank, who's not here, my former canine boss, Commander Kuczynski. He's not able to be here. He gave us a lot of support. I also have my new canine boss, if he's somewhere in the crowd, Sergeant Dan Terry, taking over our unit for us. Hopefully we could have the same success that we had with Ice with my new partner, Diesel. So just like to thank everybody for their help and their support. Thank you.
I'm going to put Tony and Ice right on center stage for everybody to see. Good evening. My name is Officer Danny Ramirez. I'm with the Oak Brook Canine Police Department, members of the City Council, Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, Chief, Commanders, and all your friends that have come to celebrate the distinguished career that Tony and Ice have set forth. They have truly set the standard for others to follow, and what I mean is the canine community is a very small community in and of itself, and from his success on the street with narcotics fines, with tracking, and general deployment, I mean, he's truly one of the best. So I'm truly honored and excited that Tony's been given the opportunity to have another dog. I like the opportunity to say that the village of Elmhurst truly has two true professionals here. Ice, who's retiring, and Tony, who's going to be carrying on with the next dog, so you're truly fortunate. But that's also a positive reflection back on the village and chief and members of the department who support this program. And without that support, Tony could never have been and achieved the things he's done. So outstanding job, Tony. Our training group is made up of about 18 different agencies from throughout northern and western suburbs. All the agencies that ICE has worked with are on this plaque. This plaque is dedicated to his service that he has worked from 2003 to 2010, so 7 years of good, loyal service to us in the community. So we're going to present this to you, Tony. One last quick little note is just something I was looking through some photographs, and I came across this photograph of some training that we had done previously. And like I said, Tony and I are truly, well, I like to say, the tip of the spear when it comes to out there and learning the tasks that we need to do to be safe and come home at night. So this one I thought you'd really like, Tony. Here you go. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Detective James Krubazaz. I represent the Villa Park Police Department. Prior to a couple years ago when we got our own canine, we didn't have a dog. And on those occasions for drug sniffs or manhunts, there was no question on who to call. It was Officer Poley and ICE. And even now, we do have a canine when our canine handler's not there, and unfortunately he's not able to attend tonight, he's out of town. There's no question who to call. It was Officer Poley and ICE. The high success rate for finding narcotics, as well as suspects on the run. So on behalf of the Villa Park Police Department, I present you with you and ICE with this plaque of appreciation, as well as a letter from the Chief of Police of Villa Park, John Heidelmeyer, a letter of appreciation. Thank you.
Okay, I believe that's it, but I want to thank everybody here for allowing us to have a canine in our budget, because like everything else, there's a cost involved with this. Thank Tony for his dedication and the ability to carry on with our new dog, Diesel. So thank you very much.
Had the dog run around here in the top, you know.
Let's give Tony and ICE another round of applause, and all the men, all the other departments. Chief. These dogs often go in place of manpower. We're hunting down a guy that's armed and dangerous, and they're sending a dog, and that dog's in harm's way over our officers. And so we thank the officer for all the training, all the hard work, and we thank the dog for the years of service. So being a dog lover, my wife's a dog nut. They bring so much love to families, and in this case, so much protection to our town. So God bless ICE, and enjoy retirement. I don't think we have a pension on that dog, but he's put a lot of service into this community, so we appreciate that. On to item number 4, which is receipt of written communications and/or petitions from the public. At this time, are there any people with any type of written communications and/or petitions that they would like to present? If so, please rise at this time and present those as Clerk Spencer, who's up here to my right. She will accept any written communications and/or petitions. Anybody? Okay. And at this time, I'd go on to item number 5, public forum, and ask Clerk Spencer, are there any members of the public who wish to address the council tonight?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have 11 people. I will start with Robert Farr, 285 Geneva Avenue, Elmhurst.
Robert, if you could please state your name and your address, and you'd have 3 minutes, and I'll let Clerk Spencer.
It's not working. Sound like it.
One second. We'll get that connected for you so that we can all hear you. Uh-oh.
Use the other one. Maybe move to the other.
Perhaps we could use the other mic if that's going to, there we go. Thanks, Chief Doherty, Deputy Chief Doherty.
Okay, yeah, that sounds better.
There you go.
Yes, good evening. My name is Robert Farr. I live at 285 Geneva Avenue, which is actually in the 300 block of Geneva Avenue. I have lived in Elmhurst for 11 and a half years, of which the first 10 years, my basement and my neighborhood remained dry, even during very bad storms. In the last 1.5 years, storms have caused sewage backup into my house on 3 separate occasions, most recently last week. Last week, I also had sewage-infested water that had been bubbling up from the manhole cover out in front of my house in the middle of the street. Sewage-infested water almost 6 inches deep up against the sides of my house. The water in my backyard was over 3 feet deep and over 5 feet deep in East End Park. I very recently took an early retirement from a management position at a Fortune 500 wholesale MRO distribution corporation to open my own business headquartered here in Elmhurst. Now, not only do I regret living in Elmhurst, but I certainly realize that I need to headquarter my business elsewhere. With regard to that Fortune 500 corporation, I'd like to give kudos to my prior employer. The Granger Foundation did donate $5,000, which I had nothing to do with that, by the way, but I stumbled upon the information on the internet that they donated $5,000 to the Elmhurst Yorkfield Food Pantry as a result of this recent flooding disaster that we've experienced. Also, as it turns out, Granger's involved with emergency preparedness in some other communities. Recently, 600 people participated in an emergency response exercise held in the area up in the Lake Forest area. A collaborative group of public and private organizations conducted a coordinated emergency response event. I don't know if Elmhurst is involved in anything like that, but I certainly think we should be if we haven't been in the past. Hopefully we will be in the future. My son just graduated in May from Washington University in St. Louis, and just as a point of fatherly pride, the Sam Fox School of Design at WashU is known as the Harvard of the Midwest. He graduated from WashU, where he studied architecture, landscape, and urban design. When he was a sophomore at WashU, so that was a few years back, he just graduated this past May.
Sir, real quick, you're going on 3 minutes. I'll give you about another 20 seconds. If you could wrap it up, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. When he was a sophomore at WashU, he started telling me that based upon what he was learning at WashU at that time, what he was observing happening in the Elmhurst area, this would be a few years ago, was a recipe for disaster. I thought he was a little silly, just a kooky college kid, but what I will read now from a recent blog post was written and modified slightly by me for this audience, but it was written by him, by my son.
Sir, I'm sorry, you're well over, you're at about 3:30, so I apologize. We try to give each person 3 minutes. We've given you about an extra 30 seconds, so I do apologize. If you'd like to put a written communication in, you're more than welcome to turn those into the clerk, and we'll definitely make copies and get that distributed to the council.
Okay, I'll just hand it to the clerk.
Sure, go ahead.
What my son had to say is really interesting.
Thank you. to the clerk here. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Marilyn Aredo, 912 Sailor.
I'm Marilyn Aredo. I have lived at 912 Sailor for 48 years. I did not have water on July 23rd and 24th in my basement. However, I am afraid and concerned that I will have water in my basement in the next storm. My question to you tonight is to ask you to put in place a moratorium on building immediately so that some of the questions and issues that we have on infrastructure can be investigated and secondly, corrected. So I noticed that on the agenda, I believe it's number F, that moratorium is on there. I only hope that you, the City Council, act quickly on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aredo.
Rebecca Gomer, 158, I believe. Oh, okay. And your address? I'm sorry, I can't read your writing. Thank you.
Yeah, Rebecca Cranmer, 158 Richard in Elmhurst. I live over in the East End area. And I just wanted to express my disappointment in the traffic control during the flood. I know that the city is very busy during that time. However, I think it's important that at the very least that we give directions, detours to people who are traveling through our town who really don't want to be here and trying to get to their point of destination. So I would like to encourage perhaps maybe a task force of some sort or a committee to survey the streets during those storm times, during the storms or emergencies, so that they can find a proper route going through the city. I encountered very many people, homeowners, very upset because of the traffic going through the town, especially in the East End area, and just people very lost and confused, not knowing where to go, people driving quickly, and a lot of elderly people, not, very confused, usually, used to driving from point A to point B, very distraught, and that made me sad. It made me very disappointed in our town because we cannot give proper direction to people who are going through. It's enough that people are trying to get their things out of their house because of the flood. There's lots of kids running around in the streets because there was water out. So it's a little bit of a dangerous thing for cars to be driving quickly. And, they were driving quickly, trying to get out. Yeah, I don't know what we can do. I know that there's a lot of people in town who would be willing to do that. Not necessarily city members, I mean just volunteers from the town. Just neighborhood people trying to help one another. And I just think it would be very neighborly if we did that. That's it.
Thank you, Miss.
Wellington Lyons, 182 North York.
Good evening, council members, mayor. My name is Wellington Lyons, and I'm a third-year law student at Loyola. I'm also a legal intern at the Citizen Advocacy Center, located across the street at 182 North York, here in Elmhurst. I'm addressing you tonight because I'm troubled by a recent incident that has placed the city of Elmhurst in the national spotlight. Earlier this summer, a member of the community was ejected from a finance committee meeting because of her allegedly disorderly behavior. What did she do? Well, she committed the deeply offensive act of rolling her eyes. She rolled her eyes at the suggestion that the city should spend tens of thousands of dollars to hire a lobbyist to represent the city's interests in Springfield. And for this, she was told to leave. Moreover, the alderman who asked her to leave was later thanked by the mayor. The story of this unjustified response was picked up by over 30 media outlets, which have universally condemned these actions. Unfortunately, these press reports also misrepresented the story. Despite what you may have heard on Letterman and the Today Show, the town is not about to pass a law making eye-rolling a crime. It should be noted, however, that this town does not need to pass such a ridiculous law, because the current practice of allowing committee chairs to define disorderly conduct on an ad hoc basis without any guidelines is just as effective at chilling speech. By refusing to create any standards for determining when speech reaches the level of disorderly conduct, the mayor and the committee chairs can effectively eject citizens from city meetings whenever they like. A simple solution to this problem exists. The Citizen Advocacy Center asks that this council make applicable to city meetings the definition of disorderly conduct as it already exists in Elmhurst's Municipal Code, Chapter 51.01. Such an approach would limit the abuse of discretion and would make allegedly disorderly conduct objectively measurable. More importantly, such an approach would ensure that history does not repeat itself, and that community members no longer fear being ejected from meetings simply for expressing themselves in ways protected by the First Amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Claude Pagash, 566 West Gladys.
My name is Claude Pagach. I live at 566 West Gladys. We've had a bad couple of weeks here in Elmhurst. Kind of endless flooding. Part of it is we had 40-year rainstorms. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the problems down on the south side lie right here with this administration, with previous administrations. Systems are designed under certain parameters. I doubt if the engineers designing the storm system down on the south side took into effect that Elmhurst Hospital was going to build a big complex as it did down there, office buildings. I doubt if they took into account that the city council on a regular basis changes zoning that will now allow apartment buildings behind the clinic on Spring and Butterfield. What you've done is you've added volumes of water to a system that was designed years ago. People have come here individually and complained their houses were flooding. So we allowed a hospital to go in, and I doubt it seriously that any thought was given to say, if you want to put it there, you're going to have to put in retention systems. Other villages do it, and they don't care who wants the building put up. Elmhurst Hospital is coming to the city again. They want some more zoning changes. You'll go along with it. But every building that you've added and every permit that you've issued for a new house, a new apartment, you haven't in any way used funds to modify the system that's been there as long as it has. For years I lived in this town, and every year I picked up the paper and the floodplain on the south side of this town changed. I doubt if there's anybody sitting here or anybody in the engineering department that has any idea what the floodplain looks like. What this council does have an effect on the people. They've come to you and they said, solve our problem. You've made changes, and it's going to worsen the situation down there. It isn't going to help it. And as long as just a few show up, you'll forget about it. You don't have the money, and when you had the money, you didn't try to solve the problem. And until you actually believe what you say, that you're trying to better the lives of these people, stop using their basements as retention. That's exactly what you're doing. You haven't improved the system, let alone you've modified the zoning in such a degree that, number one, all you've added is the overall volume of material to be moved.
Claude, if
And
you
that
could wrap
little
it up, you have
idea
about 10
about the horse and pony show about taking them and showing them the pumping plants, that's like telling them to put in overhead sewers. It solves nothing.
Thank you, sir.
Miss Darlene Heslop, 200 North Michigan Avenue, number 227.
I would like to request that items number C through H on the consent agenda tonight be pulled by the various council members that are referring them, so that the public, both in this room and the ones that might be watching the rebroadcast, could have some idea of what is being proposed, just to make it more clear as to what these referrals are for. Additionally, I would like the following to be clarified when these referrals actually make it to committee, whenever you get around to discussing them. There's a referral for a grant program, and which obviously isn't currently funded this year in our budget, because it would be something that would be new. And I would just like some ideas as to what you're thinking as to funding sources that may be available for this program, as well as a proposed total budget for it. It's not that I'm against it or anything like that. I just would like a little bit more information as to what you're looking at money-wise. To the Finance Committee, there are several referrals to your committee regarding such things as emergency usage of TIF funds, building moratorium, and impact fee policy. I believe that not only do short-term measures need to be carefully considered, but we need to be diligent in not creating other financial problems in the future. In other words, let's be proactive and not reactive to the situation. We still want to maintain Elmhurst as a desirable community in which to invest, as well as to continue to promote growth in our tax base in order to avoid continued increases in our taxes. I'm impressed with the council's commitment to providing prompt action on this very serious matter, and I am certain that going forward, this elected task force will provide the best answers to our situation. And you all looked great on TV. Mayor, you look great on TV, and those that were on, you look great. Thank you.
Thank you.
E.F. Todd Benson, 391 River Glen.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, serving aldermen, our city manager, clerk, attorney, and treasurer, and to my fellow neighbors here in Elmhurst. First, I'm just glad to be able to stand up here and say hello. I thank the Elmhurst Hospital and God. A comment, I serve as a director of the Elmhurst Chamber, a member of the Spring Road Business Association, a friend of many of the businesses in our community. I'm here tonight to applaud the city in its efforts to conduct and push forward a program for shopping all of Elmhurst. We are the sum of our parts, all of our community members, all of our businesses add up to hopefully a winning place to live, a great place to live. I understand that the city wants to help and remind our residents to shop all of Elmhurst. And tonight, I'm here to speak that when we roll that program out, we're thinking all of Elmhurst, not just the downtown business district, not just Spring Road business district, or not just the York and Villette district. In specifics, I'm concerned that we sometimes forget our friends who, the Carlos of the world who operate Mimo's Pizza on the north side of town, or the Vince who operates Sal's Beverage World, or Frank who operates DeLeo's Pizzeria on the south side of town. Those are all in Elmhurst. They're helping our tax base. I'm reminded that Kohl's, the great store for ladies, I guess men's clothing, I don't know, I don't go shopping there, my wife does though, that's the largest Kohl's store in all of their chain, and they're in Elmhurst. They're located at Route 83 and St. Charles. So if we're going to shop Elmhurst, I hope all of those businesses are included, as well as our merchants who are on York and Addison, our merchants who are on York and Villette, and our merchants on Spring Road. Specifically, I called to your attention that there may be parts of that program of a shopping contest or associations that have raffles. And again, I'm not sure that Coles is a member of any of those associations or the chamber. And again, we need to have all of Elmhurst part of a Shop Elmhurst campaign. I thank you for listening, and again, thank you for doing what you guys do up there.
Thanks, Mr. Benson.
Maura Moriarty, 404 Argyle.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Maura Moriarty. I reside at 404 Argyle. I'm here tonight to share with you firsthand example of the slipshod construction in our town. Our building code gives preferential treatment to all new construction at the detriment and expense of adjacent property owners. There's new construction going up at 408 Argyle. This parcel is one directly south of my home. The new home is considerably larger. The current developer excavated all the way up to the property line. During last week's storm, all my trees, as well as 4 feet of property, fell right into the escalated hole. The following business day, what did the developer do? He filled the hole with 4 feet of dirt over the trees. I'm not talking about 1 tree. I'm not talking about 2 trees. I'm not talking about 3 trees. I'm talking about 4 6 to 7 foot arborvitae trees. Oh, it's so upsetting. Another example is the way he poured his foundation. His foundation is currently 15 inches over the elevation of my property. When I expressed concern with the city, the response I got is, no worries, there's going to be a brick facade with a ledge over it. When I looked at it again, I see the construction guys lowering the outside of the window cells 2 inches. It's still 13 inches higher than my current property. But they say it's okay. No worries with the facade. And my question to you is, when is it ever okay to change the grading of a property next door to you? Because of this home being so large, the additional water, rain is going down into the downspouts and then out to the water and sewers. This home has so much impervious surface that the city has also required them to put in not 1, 2, 3 rear yard drains. This isn't rocket science. Perhaps this house is too big for the lot that they are building on. What I really fail to understand is why I am incurring the additional cost to get a plat survey, to get a topography survey to protect my own property rights. This is ridiculous, especially when I look at my tax bill. The single item for the city of Elmhurst has increased an increment amount of 50% more than what I am paying a year ago. My challenge to you is, what are we doing to protect the existing residents of the city of Elmhurst who have been long supporters of the schools, the government, the library? You need to listen to our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian Wool, I believe it is, at Washington Street. Could you please state your address?
Good evening, Brian Wool, 704 South Washington Street. Just a few comments. First of all, I had no idea that the flooding was this widespread throughout the city of Elmhurst. My apologies, I was too busy digging 10 feet of water out of my own basement. So I would like to better understand from this meeting tonight what the time frame of the task force is as far as when it's going to be put together, and just a general overview of what we're going to try and accomplish with that. And then to the last speaker's point regarding a building moratorium or some form of better construction rules, the amount of water that we had on Washington Street in the 700 and 600 block, there's 3 new houses being constructed on that street. It's unfathomable to me that this group would allow that to happen, understanding what's happened to 40 of the 42 homes on that block. You're inviting 3 new families onto this street, into this community, knowing that there's a potential that their houses are going to flood. So I'd really like to better understand from this group tonight what we're going to do about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
David Ranelli, 129 Pine.
Hi, 129 Pine. You know, there's two things that I guess I'm here to observe tonight. One is just to hear your plans to deal with the flooding. I had 4 feet of water. I've done about $20,000, $25,000 of flood control, and then I put a $25,000 basement, which is in a dumpster. So I'm really interested to see, unlike past attempts to deal with this problem, we did the study on Pine Street. It says the pipes are too small. We know that's not the case. It's a retention problem, a capacity problem, as evidenced by how fast the water comes up and how fast the water goes down. And I'd like to understand what this council is going to do about this problem. I mean, the two things that I see from the city is not responding to the problem at all. Not at all. Over 4 years. No real response. And two, you know, telling the people that they don't have the right to disagree or have an opinion that, or react to the point that it makes national news. I think it's a disgrace. I work in the private world, and when people are irresponsible, someone gets fired. Sometimes it's not fair, but something happens. And all I see is nothing happening. So I ask you to make that change.
Thank you, sir.
Kathleen Sullivan, 133 Pine.
Good evening, Kathleen Sullivan, 133 Pine Street. There's a reason for eye rolling in Elmhurst, Illinois. The last time I was here to address the City Council was with regards to flooding on Pine Street. My house had not been affected. Mayor Marcucci had said it was the responsibility of the residents to take care of their side of the sidewalk. It was the city's responsibility to take care of the other side. 7 people on our block since that time, with the help of the city, spent $100,000 to $200,000 to put in overhead sewers on our street. I told you then that our neighbors would take care of their side of the sidewalk. They did. You have to take care of your side of the sidewalk. I'm now going to talk about the response of the city during the flooding. Inadequate. Inadequate was the city's response to the flood of Saturday, July 24th. Inadequate when you call the only number that answers after 5 p.m. and no one blocks your flooded street. Inadequate when they close North Avenue and send the traffic near your street. So inadequate when you call again because some drunk drove down your street and cast a wake 20 feet into your garage. Inadequate when they still don't come and close your flooded street. Inadequate when your street is walking distance from the police station, no car needed. Inadequate when the city's website is down at 5 a.m. when you are looking for the emergency info they provided after the last time this happened. Inadequate when you go to bed with a cleaned up basement at 5:30 a.m. but wake at 7 to 4 feet of water still rising to top off at about 9 feet. Inadequate when you only awoke to tell your vacationing neighbor they needed to come home early. Inadequate when you step out in front of your first step into ankle-deep water. Inadequate when you find the fire department on your street and it's still not closed. Inadequate when the firefighters tell you the mayor is at the fire station when you can't get there because your car is in standing water and the street is deeper. Inadequate when your alderman drove by before the flooding really began, never to be seen again. Inadequate when your other alderman never even drove by. Inadequate when you hear that the city manager will be busy when he gets in the office on Monday. Inadequate when you hear that the lift station that the city said was on was off, according to the lift station's neighbors, eyewitness, and ear witness accounts. Inadequate when you hear the lift station started working at 9 a.m., about the time the water started to go down. Inadequate when water is about 8 inches from reaching your first floor. Inadequate when the only person you see representing the various governments is delivering brochures for the Park District. Inadequate when you have to pump 250,000 gallons out of 3 homes and know you don't have it the worst. Inadequate when the only water now on your street is coming from your pumping and no one from the city comes and asks, what's up? Inadequate when you try to go to Home Depot and see that other blocks were closed. Inadequate when reverse 911 that you registered for never even called. Inadequate when the first city employee you see on your street is driving a city street sweeper on Monday. Inadequate when the first flood damage picked up by the garbage collectors is picked up near the city's flood response meeting. Inadequate when the flood response meeting is moved to a school, but the fire department begins turning people away because the building lacks capacity. Inadequate when the speakers in the foyer weren't turned on for those of us who couldn't get into the meeting. Inadequate when the school's classrooms and intercom system were not used for the overflow crowd. Inadequate when the fire department said that the school building was over capacity when people were only in the auditorium. Inadequate when the agenda for the city meeting includes a to-do list that starts with update emergency preparedness plan. Inadequate, wholly inadequate, cannot happen again.
Thank you, Ms.
Mr. Mayor, that was our last speaker.
Thank you, Clerk. And I will now go on to item number 6, which is the consent agenda. At this time, I'd ask if there are any questions or any particular items that might want to be pulled from the consent agenda. Maybe if you're going to question something that might want to vote no on. I would ask for discussion purposes if we, to bring, particular items up, especially referrals under other business to make the meeting go along quicker, just out of respect for council and for the people here. That'll make the meeting go that much quicker. So at this time, any items? Alderman Pezza.
Item O.
Item O. Okay. And any other items? Okay. Hearing none, I'd ask for a motion and a second to approve the contents of the consent agenda, less items in its entirety, less items O, please. Motion by Alderman Hipskin, second by Alderman Brown. And I'd ask for Clerk Spencer to call the roll, please.
Hipskin.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
York. Absent. Nybo.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Morley. Absent. Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Wagner. Absent. Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Pezza.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Rose. Absent. 10 ayes, 0 nays, 4 absent.
10 ayes, 0 nays, 4 absent. The motion passes to approve the consent agenda in its entirety with exception to item O. And at this time, I'd ask for Clerk Spencer to read item O, please. It's an ordinance.
An ordinance to amend Section 4.04 entitled Economic Development Commission of Chapter 4 entitled Boards and Commissions of the Municipal Code of the City of Elmhurst, Illinois.
And at this time, I ask for a motion and a second to put this ordinance on the floor, please. Alderman Pezza with a motion, a second by Alderman Shea, and discussion. Alderman Pezza.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick, probably point of clarification from our city attorney. 2 weeks ago, when we voted and approved the actual report on this subject, the report stated that we approved the upping of the commission from 9 members to 12 along with adding one ex officio member to the EDC Commission. And when I review the actual ordinance, my question is, it actually says we will consist of 14 members, not the 13 members the report approved, and it states 9 to 12 members, but then the question comes into play. It says there will be a 14th ex officio. So the report is not in sync with the ordinance, and I would just like clarification.
I think the additional ex officio member is the member that would be either the designee of the city manager, basically, or his designee. And of course, if you did not want that, and it wasn't in the report, you're 100% right, we could delete it. But I think the staff thought that there might be some benefit to have somebody from the city manager's office be an ex officio member on this committee. But it's, of course, the will of the council.
Follow-up. So there is currently no staff ex officio officially on this commission serving, is that correct?
Planning and zoning development director, but that's an empty spot right now.
I'm sorry. Oh, what the manager is pointing out to me is that we currently have an ex officio member from the staff side that is the city's planning and zoning and economic director, which we no longer have one.
We no longer have one?
We don't have an economic. We do not have a city's planning and zoning and economic director. There's not one currently staffed.
From staff or a committee? That's
No, from staff. The prior zoning and economic development director on city staff is no longer, we no longer have that staff person. So there is not somebody from the staff ex officio acting in that capacity.
It's an unfilled
So
position.
staff was suggesting that maybe somebody from either the city manager or his designee would be appropriate. But again, you're right, that's not consistent with what the report said, and we could in fact go back to 13 if that's the will of the council.
So I guess the question is, should it not be in sync with the report and what was approved?
It is not. You're correct. It is not in sync. There's one more member, ex officio member, non-voting member, that city staff thought might be effective to assist the group in carrying out its duties.
So should the ordinance reflect what we voted on in the report is the bottom line?
It's up to you. It's up to the majority of the council. If you wanted to stay as the committee report designated 13 members, we would delete the 14th ex officio non-voting member. If in fact you wanted to follow the suggestion of the staff, you'd add that 14th member, but it's entirely up to you.
Then I guess I would like to ask for some reason why, A, it wasn't part of the original report, and B, what the benefit would be and reason would be to add it if we so choose to keep it in.
I would direct it to City Manager Borchert. City Manager Borchert would like to answer that?
Yeah. Again, perhaps we're going too quickly, but it seemed as if the DPZ committee would be benefited if they were ex officio on the Economic Development Commission, and a city staff person, which was referred to earlier in the earlier ordinance, would be ex officio. So the ordinance as drafted by the attorney adds the 3 voting members of the commission exactly as the committee report has recommended and the council has approved. The question, and I understand Alderman Pez's question, how do we get from the 9 existing members proposed to be 12 members, where's the 14 come from? The 12 is as recommended by the committee, approved by the council, be members of the commission and voting members of the commission. The 13th and 14th are ex officio, one from the DPZ committee, which would be an aldermanic spot ex officio, so it would be clear that the DPZ committee would be not only welcome because they're part of the council, but specifically provided for and desired to be part of the advisory team, and then there'd be a city staff person that would be formally ex officio. So it's at what level do you wish the ex officio to be noted in the enabling legislation? Aldermen have come and gone from the commission meetings. They're always welcome. City staff, at the direction of the city manager, including the city manager, have gone and come as advisory to the commission. That we would intend would continue on. It would be our suggestion that it be formalized, that there be those two specific ex officios provided for in the ordinance, if you wish. If not, it would be status quo, where any member of the council is certainly invited to any commission meeting anywhere, anytime, but in particular the Economic Commission. And city staff is always at commission meetings, whether specified or not, as they support the activities of the commission. Again, the thought was that it would be good to memorialize the two ex officio positions.
So those people, the two ex officios, do not have a vote. They're just there mainly for support and for interaction, correct, City Manager Borchert?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Because I don't know where we're going with this, but...
So final, because Ken Bartels in this revised June report was listed as an ex officio, but he's not staff, he's consultant. So how does that play in? Would it have to be a staff member, or is it anybody in the world that the city manager would choose?
I refer it to City Manager Borchert again.
Well, I'm not, Mr. Bartels has been asked to attend. If he was noted in the minutes as their ex officio, that is how he was there. He was there as advisory to the commission, but not as a voting member of the commission.
I think you have to also realize Mr. Bartels was on the commission for years prior to that too, so past commissioners could attend the meeting. And
But that doesn't answer the question as to would it have to be a city staff, or could it be anybody appointed to that spot?
City Manager Borchert.
Well, the commission is a meeting of a commission of the city. They're posted. They're open meetings. Anybody from the public can go to those meetings. Mr. Bartels was asked to go as a specific assignment from the city manager's office to help and work with and advise and collaborate with the commission. If you don't want them ex officio listed, we'll take the ex officios out of the ordinance and not memorialize that there is an intent of the council to be represented on the commission in an ex officio capacity, and that there would be an assigned by the city manager formal ex officio single position. It doesn't preclude, again, that just those two people could go to a meeting. There is a number of city staff that go and come based on topics and based on requests of the commission to assist, as there have been members of the city council going and attending various, not only meetings of the Economic Commission, but other commission meetings.
Okay. Alderman, what's your concern? What's your concern with this issue?
I want to make sure that what we're defining and what we would agree to allow and allow the city manager to choose is actually what we all understand it to be. And I still don't understand, because the question wasn't answered. If there's a 14th member, an extra ex officio that we agree to, it says members shall be either the city manager or his designee. Would the designee be the purpose of us being staff, or could the designee be John Doe that lives God knows where and does who knows what? That's my question.
It sounded like you said it would either be staff or a consultant, so it would be a consultant of Elmhurst or staff. Am I correct in that, Mr. Borchert? And that person would not have a vote, so I don't know what.
I'm trying to make our ordinance follow our report and what we vote with.
Yeah, and that was the intent of the staff in collaboration with the attorney to formalize those two ex officio spots actually in the ordinance. One member from the council, specifically one member from the DPZ committee, and one member would be a formal ex officio member from the city staff assigned to the commission. We haven't identified that one person yet because we haven't got the formal authority of the ordinance being approved.
Alderman
It has
Healy?
been a past practice of folks coming and going to support the commission.
Alderman Healy, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would suggest, based on the conversation, that this ordinance be pulled and maybe sent back to committee so that the committee can answer some of these questions as opposed to us, talking about it on the dais here for another 20 minutes. It seems to me there's sufficient question between the difference between the report and the ordinance that maybe it should go back to committee and then come back before us.
Is that fair enough? All right. Got a second on that? We'll pull it, and we'll bring it back to committee. We'll review it, and we'll...
I think you need a motion.
We'll need a motion and a second to pull it back. Alderman Healy with a motion, Alderman Mulliner with a second. All in favor to pull the report back to committee? Single by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
No.
No.
No. Point of order.
Let's do a roll call.
I think we need to do a roll call.
Okay, all right.
Point of order.
Yeah.
I'm
Alderman
not sure
He-
you can send an ordinance back to committee. Are we procedurally doing something that's proper? I mean, if we want, we could table it to the next meeting, but to iron out wrinkles, but you can't send an ordinance back to a committee.
I'd refer to City Attorney
I think that-
Storino.
Well, you can table it, and that's probably the most effective way, but it's going to come back here. But I think you also can refer it back to committee, and I think there's a provision in your code where even a minority of aldermen can do that. So I think you can. I think you can refer it back to the committee. Because I think that's where this work probably has to be done to get it back before you all again. Just a table, it means it comes back to this body.
What's the consensus here? You want to talk this out, or you want to send it back to committee? Because we're spending time, I think, doing nothing, to be honest with you.
Well,
So-
I disagree.
So, we got people out here with other big issues that we need to address, so.
There's a motion and a second.
We got a motion and a second. I'd ask, you know what, we have a motion and a second on the floor to bring it back to committee. I'd ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll.
Healy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Wagner. Absent. Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Pezza.
Aye.
Shea.
No.
Leader.
Aye.
Rose. Absent. Bram.
No.
Hipskin.
Aye.
York. Absent. Nybo.
Aye.
Morley. Absent. Kennedy.
Aye.
Okay. Show 8 ayes, 2 nays, and 4 absent.
8 ayes, 2 nays, 4 absent. That motion to bring back to committee is approved. And we'll now go on to item number 7, reports or recommendations of appointed and elected officials. Updates from myself and City Manager Borchard. I will take this on first. Updates from myself. As many of us know, and many of the folks that are out here affected with last week's storm, a significant amount of rain, 7.3 inches that came down in 6 hours. I was personally woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning and Saturday morning out of bed saying we've got a huge storm coming. I was at the emergency command center from 2:30 in the morning till in and out of there till about 6. Overseeing the coordination of our emergency response. When I got into the EOC, which is located north side station in the lower bottom of that facility, the radar showed significant storms from Chicago all the way past Iowa with no let up. And at that point, we realized that this was going to be a very significant rainfall in a very short period of time. Streets were already beginning to flood, and the Eisenhower Expressway was shut down for the first time since 1967, and it was the year after I was born. It was a snowstorm, and I think many of us remember. 294 shut down, North Avenue shut down, Route 83 shut down. I mean, every major thoroughfare. Today we had a meeting with Senator Dick Durbin, who came out along with the director of FEMA to look at Elmhurst, to also talk about the whole region. Director of Homeland Security was at the meeting. We had literally dozens of mayors, both in Cook County and DuPage County, that came out. This event was significant. This event touched just about everyone. Mayor Westchester had 2/3 of his homes underwater, 2/3 of his homes. Put that in perspective, we had about 5% of our homes underwater in flooding. My concern was, you know, I don't want one person with water, you know, but Elmhurst, considering Salt Creek, thank God, did not overflow its banks, did much better than the '87 flood. However, we have people out here that were horribly affected, and we need to address these issues. We met Monday to hear the constituents, and a lot of people showed up. We realized how many people were affected by this. Not only people with flooded streets that had street flooding, but also people that didn't have flooded streets that had water in their basement. Probably millions of dollars in contents lost. Personal items that could never be replaced, lost. So even though this event was significant and probably the floodplain is a 100-year event. This was probably a 300-year event. We don't know. They say a 100-year event is 7 inches in 24 hours. We got 7.3 in 6. But regardless of the size event, we are going to need to deal with these situations. A task force is something that I recommended. A task force made up of every person from the blocks affected, from Pine Street to Washington to Parkside to Swain to Geneva. I was out along with many of the aldermen walking the streets and walking through the flooded waters, Alderman Nybo and Alderman Kennedy and Alderman Wagner and Alderman Healy, Alderman Hipskin, all of us. Alderman Pez, I know, was out with constituents, and Alderman Gutenkopf. I mean, I don't think there was not one alderman sitting home watching the news. We were all out trying to help people, try to coordinate efforts. You know, this was a national disaster that hit 14 counties were declared disaster areas. The toughest thing I had to do was sign that letter of declaration that wasn't signed since 1987 that declared Elmhurst a state of emergency, and I hope I never have to do that again. It's not fun. It's not fun to see people out here miserable for water that they get. In this situation, we've had 2 significant events in a month. So we feel your pain. Many of us got water ourselves. Many of us are affected personally, and we hear your concerns. We hear your needs. I'm reaching as high up as I can to get help, not only for people like yourself that has contents issues and structural issues, but also for eventually when we figure out how we're going to fix this to help with that infrastructure, because that can cost tens and possibly hundreds of millions to fix this region. So we're going to turn over every stone. Again, I think if anybody saw what was going on today, we had the majority leader of the United States Senate here in Elmhurst, along with the director for the region of 7 states of FEMA, Homeland Security, all the mayors, trying to figure out how we're going to address this and how we're going to tackle it. The FEMA forms, fortunately, with the website being up on Wednesday, taking FEMA forms, I give kudos to staff. We heard Monday's demand of communication, and within less than 48 hours, we had a website that was fully operational for FEMA, one of the only towns that actually had that in place, and we had a reverse 911 call out to every resident that we had a phone number on, letting them know what to do. So, well, anybody has a listed number got a phone call. If your number's not listed, unfortunately, we don't have every single number, but we, you know, over 12,000 phone calls went out against 15,000 homes, and I think we had a 95% penetration rate on phone calls. And we were hoping that with that effort, people would tell neighbors and people would work together, just like we did with we saw with the electrical lines going across from house to house. I mean, these are tough times, and neighbors help and step up for each other. And one thing I can tell you about this town, I've been here since I was a kid, we do step up. We help each other. We realize when somebody else is in need, and we do whatever we can to lend a hand, whether it's a sick kid, a kid with cancer, a person with flooding, a person that's going to lose their house. The churches, Father Deacon Tony from Visitation, they had crews out, you know, helping families. That's what Elmhurst is all about. But bottom line, we need to address the infrastructure. I've already brought in a third-party engineer consulting company to look at all the pumping stations to make sure that everything was fully operational. We will have a report on that within the next week to 2 weeks. That was a third party, never, you know, not staff, but we believe our staff, but we're also having a system of checks and balances to look at all the SCADAs and all the, those are the computers that operate the pumps to make sure they were operational. We'll have a full report and confirm or deny that whole situation. And I made that order last week, and City Manager Borchert fortunately is going through with that, and that is in place. The task force will be assembled within 30 days, as I mentioned. Applications are already coming in. I encourage, we need more people on that task force. We've got a lot of issues. I think we heard Monday night from ComEd to stormwater, to sanitary water, to how are we going to pay for this, to personal property solutions, whether you need an overhead sewer or whether you need glass block windows, or if you have one of those recessed driveways that are illegal to build on now, but you have one and unfortunately they were allowed to be built, maybe how we can address those issues too. So I plan on breaking that task force into probably 5 subcommittees. So, you know, more hands on deck, the better. We want people that are constructive, that are really here about this town, that will step up and work for solutions. We don't need people that are negative. We need people that want to fix the problem but are constructive. So if you have an engineering background, it's a huge plus. You know, I'd say we need a potpourri. We need some finance people too to figure out costs. And I mentioned to Senator Durbin this morning, we need money for infrastructure and we need money for our people. And the people probably comes first. But eventually, when we figure out what this is going to cost to fix, whether it's 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, we need some of that stimulus money that they're putting for improvements and for highways into our infrastructure. It's going to bring jobs. It's going to, stimulate the economy locally, and eventually, it's going to help our problem. So that's how we're going to attack it. We're going to turn over every stone. I appreciate staff. I've been pushing them quite a bit lately. It's not been easy. Phones have been ringing, but we are here to help. We are here to serve the customers of this town, and we are and we will. So with that, I know City Manager Borchert has a lot to say. I will turn it over to City Manager Borchert.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe I don't have a lot to say. We've got a lot to do. I would second your notion that from a city staff perspective, any home that's got a water problem is unacceptable, and staff will work hard to identify what, if possible, the city side should do to address that, and possibly what could be done on the private side to address that. We have posted on the city website a lot of information that will be the continued go-to place for sharing of information. I have done a status report for the mayor and council today, identifying some priority 1 and priority 2 city staff initiatives. I'll post that tomorrow. I did want to get that report to the mayor and city council today. We'll post it tomorrow. We won't post the color-coded contour map. That it's a bit difficult to post, but everything else that's a part of the memorandum that the council received today, we'll post. For the community, the priority 1 from a city staff perspective, priorities are not in any order of priority, but as priority 1, there's 4 items identified, and they include to collaborate and coordinate all of the city resources that would be appointed officials, elected officials, as well as staff positions towards early resolution with Commonwealth Edison to develop a plan of action for reinforcing as appropriate the power grids that support city properties, city facilities, and the overall Elmhurst community. Second priority would be to continue to review and evaluate the city's storm and sanitary systems and capacities relative to these recent rainfall events, parenthetically, which significantly exceed those design capacities, not only in Elmhurst but in other jurisdictions, end of parentheses, and determine how to best provide protection for those public and private facilities and private properties going forward. Third, evaluate designs and possible cost sharings to assist in expediting installations of private property overhead sewers and other private property flood protection enhancement features, including potential zoning relief systems as necessary appropriate. Some of those items were part of the referrals on the consent agenda that go to committees. Staff will collaborate aggressively with the committee members and the council to expedite those items as the council would wish to. and certainly work with private property owners in a coordinated fashion with the elected officials and task force members as identified by the mayor and council relative to all of the above, and to develop public and private action plans going forward to improve those. Priority 2, I've listed, not to go over them at this point, they'll be posted tomorrow. There's some specific items staff has identified that we believe are worthy of early engineering analysis and perhaps permitting consideration that may provide additional capacity and additional assistance. And as the city of Elmhurst has in the past looked at somewhat reluctantly, but I believe appropriately, to purchase property. The city has purchased property in some cases just with city resources, and other cases with assistance from the federal government, FEMA, to buy property that just is not possible to protect. It's going to continue to flood and then be repaired, and then to flood and then be repaired. We need to break that cycle and buy some property. That might be an appropriate consideration as a last resort. First resort is to protect all of the public and private property in the community. It's a wonderful community. It should be wonderful for everybody. Everybody should not have to be fearful of rain events. So we've addressed a number of these issues over the years, and I think with resolve of community and council and resources, we'll make significant strides going forward. And look forward to that. We'll need to work with the elected officials and the task force, city staff, consultant staff, and work with folks in the neighborhood that have similar problems. So we'll begin to sort out the problems. We've got those identified. There were some 750 responses, either in FEMA response or in forms that were solicited. That form is still on the city website. We've got those. We're now tabulating, putting them into groups, assigning engineers, assigning city staff to begin to work with those groups, and we'll begin to assign certain tasks to the consulting engineer. We'll wait to hear from the task force as to the independent new member of the city resource team on consulting to provide strategic direction. But we'll certainly collaborate and work with those professionals and with the community and with the elected officials in a team effort. Again, the go-to place will be the city website. We'll post, again, the memo that lists these things in detail tomorrow, and enjoy the opportunity to work with the mayor's task force and the committees going forward. And certainly the community on a regular basis, identifying what we can do, identifying what we can't do, and then deciding what we're going to do going forward. Ideally, we'll be able to resolve a significant percentage without having to say we just can't provide protection.
Thank you, City Manager Borchert. Do you know by chance on the FEMA forms, I know the deadline this morning was at 10 o'clock, can we still submit those? Is it still possible?
Yeah, my understanding, the deadline was a imposition by the county collection agency, so the county could collect those forms from the various cities and villages. So the city had to get to DuPage County by end of day today the preliminary assessment forms. The county now is processing those and handing them over to Region 5 of FEMA. That's all for purposes of Region 5 FEMA evaluating those to determine if collectively Cook County, DuPage County, and the cities and villages that were impacted by that rain had enough damage to meet whatever the threshold is of the FEMA agency for a presidential declaration of a disaster. That's what is being sought, a presidential declaration. The mayor's declaration of emergency preparedness is just a door open to go to the next level of a state declaration. The state has declared a appropriate position of emergency to allow that door to open to go to FEMA. FEMA is now evaluating. If FEMA can say yes, and I know that's what Senator Durbin was here to see firsthand, hearing about all of the other communities' issues, understanding all of those puts Senator Durbin in a better position to lobby on behalf of this region for a declaration of disaster to open up those doors of federal assistance. What are those doors of federal assistance? It's my understanding that they would be assistance to governments for expenses incurred in the flood and cleanup of the flood, and possible private property assistance through low-income loans. So it's a significant assistance to governments where the federal government would help, which would relieve the burden of the taxpayers of the affected communities to have to pay for that cleanup, and then potentially for qualifying eligible expenses, low-income loans. And if a home would qualify in this category of flood repair, there may be federal assistance to help the city or other cities in acquiring such property. To your question, Mr. Mayor, what if a form wasn't received? It doesn't matter. If there is a declaration of a disaster, FEMA basically starts all over in the community asking for those forms to be filled out and submitted to them with more information that they seek. It was a preliminary assessment to allow that initial declaration to be considered. And again, if there is a declaration of disaster, anybody would be able to submit a form, even if they didn't submit a form by end of day today.
Very good. And as we get more updates on the process, where should people go? To the website to keep tabs on the situation and what might be available
Yes, sir.
from FEMA?
There's on the city website front page, home page, there is an icon for the flooding information, and from there there are links to other sites, and the Elmhurst questions and answers, the most frequently asked questions of the Elmhurst community are listed as questions, and there's answers. We're going to continue to do questions and answers. Eventually, I anticipate that there'll be a recital of the entire city of Elmhurst stormwater system and sanitary system, including the lift stations and information about that for community folks to refer to. That'll again be analyzed and evaluated. The city of Elmhurst has embarked on strategic plans on stormwater and sanitary, and frankly, the mayor and city councils in the past have approved those, and steps have been taken. Things change, regulations change. Elmhurst's changes and regulations are ratcheting tighter and tighter as we're going forward, but they'll be looked at again, and we'll see what improvements can be made. We're limited by the state as to what is discharged to the creek. That's a state regulation and a county regulation. We were maxed out after '87. We're still maxed out, but there are opportunities, and we'll look for those opportunities. We've identified those in our priority 2 memorandum that we'll post tomorrow.
Thank you, City Manager Borchert. Again, those affected, we are very, very sorry for the whole situation. We're going to do whatever we can within our means. I've gone to the federal government, county government, state government. We also had the head of IEMA, which is the state level jurisdiction that reports to FEMA. We had all the DuPage and Cook County officials, again, as well as probably over 24 mayors, for everybody up from Carroll Stream, Severino, Mayor Severino was here, every surrounding community, both in Cook and DuPage, all singing the same situation, is we need help. We've got infrastructure upgrades that we're looking to make. Ours we need to define, because obviously we have pockets of problems. We got Pine, we've got South Side. We actually have a plotted out map with the 750 responses, and you could see them clustered in certain areas, so that it gives us a better identity as to the regular positions that are low, whatever they are, that infrastructure issues that we can look at it and assess and address. So that will be part of the task force. Again, task force will be put together within 30 days, and our goal, ideally, with the task force is within 60 days to have some answers as to what are the solutions, what are going to be the costs. We will use a third-party engineering firm to work along with us, somebody that's not biased, somebody that's not staff. The task force will help pick that. The third-party engineering firm I originally hired as a quick, in my opinion, what was well needed to discover all the pump issues was Christopher Burke Engineering, one of the largest engineering firms in Illinois, one of the most respected, and they will have an analysis, I believe, within the next week to 2 weeks, so that we will have reports for our next meeting. So, as to making sure everything was up and running, and we'll put the confirm that everything is up and running, or if there was problems, we'll address them. So, Alderman Nabel?
Mr. Mayor, a couple quick questions. I'm sure there's others that want to speak to this issue, so I will be brief. The one thing that I really picked up from the meeting last Monday was that as we address the substantive issues, we need to do so in a manner that is with the utmost attention to communication, to make sure we are communicating as much as we can to the affected constituents and to the community at large, and also that we're listening to them, that they have the opportunity to communicate to us. And that ties into the second issue, is that it's as open a process as possible. And I think it's really important that we go above and beyond and exercise every effort to let people know exactly what we're doing, to let them know opportunities that they have to communicate or chime in or participate in the process. And therefore, I had 2 quick questions for you. I think it's a great idea. I think your decision to retain an independent engineering firm to look at the Jackson and Sailor sanitary lift station pumping issues is an important first step. And I understand we're moving as quickly as possible, but before that report is finalized, I understand we're going to have a preliminary analysis within a week or so, but before the report is finalized, can we have an opportunity for that engineer to be at a noticed open meeting where residents who want to speak to this issue submit their observations, their concerns? I think that the engineer should hear what the residents' observations have been before the engineer comes to any final conclusion on that matter. So I think it's important that we notice that issue, and I see Alderman Mulliner nodding his head, so I suspect he'll speak to the same issue. I just want the residents to have the opportunity to give their information to the engineer rather than have the engineer render an independent opinion, but one that is separated from those observations. I think it's important that that opinion include that. So that's my first concern. And the second concern and question I had was, you had mentioned the task force. Again, I think it's a great idea, but you also said that you were considering breaking it down into 5 subcommittees or separate components. And I didn't know if you could share with us at this point what some of those separate areas might be, so that as residents are completing applications or expressing their interest in serving on the task force, as they have to me already, that they might know some of the areas that you're considering focusing on, so that they can identify those areas and say, hey, I'd really like to jump on the ComEd issue, or I want to be a part of the pumping station issue. So I don't know if you can comment on what some of the different areas that you foresee, being divided out at this point.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Just what you mentioned, ComEd, I think, is an issue that has to be dealt with on its own. I think it's a winnable issue, but we need people to focus on that. So I would say ComEd would be one of the subcommittees. I would look at stormwater, its challenges as a second subcommittee. First, I was thinking storm and sanitary combined, but I think we almost need 2 separate committees for those issues, because we have some homes that have sump pump water, which on new homes, ironically, goes into the stormwater, but we have some of our older homes that actually pumps sump pump water into the sanitary. And so we need to look at these issues that could possibly be causing problems, some illegal connections. We have some homes on both new and old that are legally connected. So we need to look at those situations. And those are typically sanitary issues where people illegally connect the sub pump to the wrong pipe. So I think storm, one issue, sanitary, a separate issue. Storm would look at infrastructure. Pine Street, what's the problem? Washington Street, what's the problem? Prospect, Parkside, Swain, and it's all within that 100-block area. What are those issues? So and are they fixable? Can we pump more water into the creek? And if we can't, what are our options? Can we make the pipes bigger so we can get more water into the creek? And if we're at capacity, what options do we have? So can we go in the back door of the quarry? Is that even an opportunity where we don't have to go to the creek first, but we might be able to get a direct route into the quarry? And so I think stormwater, separate issue. Sanitary, separate issue. I think finance is going to be a big one. Is it going to be an SSA that gets this done? Is it going to be federal help? Is it going to be a combination of all of the above? You know, so a finance, a group that understands dollars, understands how government works to a degree, or if not, doesn't understand it, is willing to learn. You know, because they'll be working with staff along the way, and even I would encourage an alderman to be on each committee, so that we have elected official on each committee, or subcommittee, so that we've got dialogue from not only the stakeholders that are affected, but also an elected official and staff, so that we can properly support the committee and support their questions and answers, and arrive eventually at a plan, you know, of action, so that we determine, is it fixable? How can we fix it? What's it going to cost? Is ComEd going to develop, redo their infrastructure? What's the cost? Is that going to be on ComEd's shoulders? Is it going to be on our shoulders? All these different things. So ComEd, storm, sanitary, finance, and then I would say probably personal property infrastructure, because a lot of people don't have overhead sewers. The house, you know, the gentleman gave me a picture of his bungalow that he had water in, and it looks like actually the bungalow I grew up in, on Highland and Grantley. We didn't have an overhead sewer. We had floor drains, and it was gravity fed. We eventually put an overhead sewer in because we had sanitary backup. My father broke down, put a sump pump in, an ejector pump, and put an overhead sewer in. But that was something that you know, those people have to either incur on their own 100%, or like what we're doing tonight, and that's going to be making action to try to help these people with a 50-50 split on their infrastructure, where the city pays half and helps them along. That goes a long way to get buy-in from the residents. So personal property. So those would be the committees. In my opinion, I mean, I'm open to suggestions from Chairman Kennedy. In fact, we've kind of talked about this already, and many of these are his ideas that we've shared and collaborated on. So kudos for all the input. And Alderman Nybo, I know you were big on separating ComEd, which I think is its own little animal within itself. So I appreciate all that collaboration back and forth to really break this down so it's an animal we can deal with, and we will.
Thank you. I think that's very helpful.
Okay. Alderman Mulliner.
Yeah, a number of things that relate to the same topic. Alderman Nybo did a nice job on the consultant. The only piece of the consultant that I'd like to add into that is I'd like that consultant to report back to a committee of the whole so that we can have direct communication rather than just a report, because I'm sure there's going to be questions that we're going to have. Second is relating to the subcommittees. I just heard you mention that you've got input from a number of the aldermen. I guess I'd like to see a breakout of those written down in some form so that we can have an opportunity as all aldermen to take a look at those and see if there's things that maybe we can suggest as well. Third is, as I looked at the agenda tonight, items C through H, and then on our newest agenda under other business, there's a whole series of things that all relate to this specific issue, which is, of course, the flooding. My personal opinion, and you know, I can be told that this isn't the way to go, but my personal feeling is that this is a big enough issue that this should not be directed to individual committees. I think we should be doing this as a committee of the whole. It affects the entire city. It's going to be huge money if we have to do anything, and to have, not to belittle a committee here or there, but to have one committee hearing one small piece of it and another committee hearing one other little small piece of it, I think this is a project that is big enough and a problem that's big enough that the council should be listening to it and interacting as a council. And I think we should begin meeting on it as soon as possible and start discussing some of the items that the city manager has put together here, such as the priority ones, to determine whether or not we believe that those should be moved forward. And I think we should be meeting every meeting that we have for committee meetings on this item on this problem until we get it resolved, and then break out into our smaller committees. So just a comment that I had. The other comment that I want to make is one thing that I did hear earlier in the open comments, and this all relates to the water and everything else. Somebody made a comment about the hospital and the sewer system. Just be aware that the hospital sewer system and the water systems are entirely different. There's pieces that the city's providing, and there's pieces that other entities are providing. So the sewer system, I do not believe, is coming to Elmhurst, right? Sanitary is not coming to Elmhurst. Sanitary is going to a third-party provider, so we are not absorbing any of that sanitary water that's coming from the new hospital. And I just want to make sure that everybody's clear on that, because I don't want any confusion on that. So, you know, That's where I wanted to be with that. I just want to make sure that, I don't know if everybody agrees with me, but I strongly believe that this issue is big enough that we as a council should be addressing it as a committee of the whole.
Thank you, Alderman, and I think we all agree on that. I don't know if it's going to be every meeting, but it may be, and we definitely it's a huge issue that we need to discuss, and when those opportunities come up where committee of the whole makes sense, I think that would be well accepted. Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A lot of the information that's available is, and it's very good information. I've had several residents comment that the information we've put up is useful, helpful. But my concern is that it's on the website, and there's a certain percentage of the population that doesn't use the website, doesn't have access to the web. How can we direct, how can we communicate to people that if they don't have the internet or don't have the ability to get it from the internet, where can we direct them? Do we direct them to city staff? Do we direct them to the alderman? And I think we have an opportunity with the utility bills that I believe are going out fairly soon for next month. Do we have an ability to communicate via the utility bills as to where to possibly get this information? Senior Commission, I'm just kind of pulling things out of midair here, but I'm concerned there's a lot of good information on the internet, but not everybody can get it. So have we thought about that, or can we think differently about getting the information available to as many people as possible?
Yeah, I'll let City Manager Borchard answer, but I know we're holding back the newsletter and doing a few things to where timing is important. I'll let City Manager go ahead and give detail on that.
I think it's an excellent point. I think, again, the go-to place, if one does not have access at their home or at work to the internet, would be the Elmhurst Public Library. They've got very, very significant numbers of hours every day of the week. They've got a large resource of computer access. You can download off the internet at the library. So that'd be the go-to place if you don't have your own access through your home, your work, or a friend or an acquaintance. The library would be available. The city does have 4 newsletters per year, not nearly frequent enough to deal with this issue in a comprehensive fashion. Not enough information available on a city newsletter, but we will provide strategic information in the city newsletter to provide updates. And again, I think the go-to place for the depth and the detail of what the community is expecting if they're directly adversely affected here would be the city website.
Yeah, we also, when we did the reverse 911 call, we actually had a call direct going into a voicemail. Actually, it's one of the clerk's numbers for people that are homebound or can't get out. We would actually take the call and get somebody to the residents directly. I would ask the community to step up here too, because I know every senior in my block that doesn't have a computer, and you know, we pick up the phone, we call, is there anything you need? So this is where we word of mouth also, but whatever we can do as a city to have things in the public places, library, police, fire, on the website. We'll write forms out to people's homes with staff if need be, and then again, the community is always the biggest supporter, and getting the word out to people on your block. That's one thing I think this community does so well is stepping up for the seniors and people that might not have a computer. So, Alderman Brown.
Thank you, and I wasn't actually going to speak about this tonight, but Alderman Healy brings up a good point, and it is the inability for some seniors to be able to access the internet. One suggestion as I was sitting here listening to Alderman Healy speak about this issue is maybe that we at City Hall print out a handful of copies and leave them here at City Hall, at the library, at the police station, some main points where residents can come in and either get a photocopy or, you know, I'm not talking volumes of this information, but some main points in the city of Elmhurst where residents would know where to go and read it who don't have the internet or who are actually intimidated to jump on a computer even if they have access at the library.
Absolutely. I know Commissioner Chairman Kathy Jordan was at the town hall meeting and spoke as to the senior services that are available and gave out phone numbers and important information there. If they need any services, assistance, these are things that we as a city fund. Metropolitan Family Services, Meals on Wheels, all these things that we as a city actually contribute to are great resources for these folks and who are in need. And you know, we're here ready to serve along with the agencies that we support, and I thank God for the council continuing to support these agencies as well too. Alderman Pezza.
Thank you, Mayor. couple of things. First, not only as an alderman, just as a human being in general, to drive down the streets and see people's lives thrown in your front lawn is devastating just as a human to see anybody have to live through that. And for that, I'm very sorry for anyone that had to experience that. I was fortunate, knock wood, in my home. I didn't have that much damage. We had some seepage, but I'm very sorry for anyone that had to deal with that. And that being said, you know, although Mayor DeCiani and I don't agree on 100% of issues that we discuss or vote on, I do have to say that I know in my heart of hearts that his heart and soul is 100% dedicated to doing something about this. I've seen how hard he's worked on this. I believe that he's serious about it, and I believe the council is serious about it, and this is one issue where I'm confident that we will not let this go, will not let this be swept under the carpet, because quite frankly, there's no more carpet to sweep it under. It's gone, long gone in the dumpsters. So I would just like to thank the council and the mayor. I know how hard you've been working on this, and I appreciate that. That being said, I'd like to add to Alderman Ibo's suggestion, which I think was excellent, of having this engineer come before the people. One of the emails, well, several of the emails that Alderman Gutenkopf and I have received, people are very disappointed, and rightfully so, that there was no one there from our staff, Public Works, to answer questions, to address this. I would also like to be sure that our staff, who's been here longer than many of us aldermen, is present and verbal and vocal and there to answer questions. They have a history here. They've been here through all the new development, all the new construction. They know the historic part of this, where an engineer can help us going forward. So I would like to be sure that this time, staff, especially Public Works, is present also when we get together with the engineer.
Very good, very good. And just for the record, we did have staff at the open house. We chose to listen more than answer. I went to several other towns that ran their meetings a little bit differently, and they answered almost every question. Those meetings were pretty tough because no matter what answer you give them, you're not listening as much as you're giving answers. And quite often they don't want to hear the answer. They want to get it off their chest. They have a problem. So we chose to go to 12:30 in the morning and listen to every single person. They had a problem, and you know, City Manager Borchard, I commend you for your patience and for your Christianness in dealing with that, because that was not an easy meeting for all of us, but especially yourself. And but we listened to everybody. Most of those meetings in the other towns didn't last too long because they just got out of hand. And so, you know, this stuff doesn't happen too often, and you always kind of second guess how you're handling things. But I think the way we did it, we let everybody vent. We took notes. I took 6 pages of notes. I know Alderman Kennedy probably took 12 because he writes a lot faster than I do. But we wanted to listen to you guys more than give answers. And that to me is more important, and it's how we ran the meeting. And we're going to come up with answers. We're going to fix these problems. We're going to find a way. And but that was our rationale with that meeting and how we ran it. But Mike Hughes was there. We had every single staff member present. We weren't hiding. We just chose to listen. And I hope everybody understands our situation. We wanted to hear everybody out, and we thank everybody for their patience. So, anything else? Alderman Mulliner.
On a different issue related to reports and recommendations.
Sorry, we got more than one issue. One comment that I want to make is that, unfortunately, the media misunderstood what was occurring during the last Finance Committee meeting when I made a recommendation that we get a definition of disorderly conduct and disturbing meetings. I asked to have that defined for us clearly so that there was no question about what that was. I do not want anyone thrown out of the meeting for rolling their eyes. That is totally inappropriate. You can roll your eyes as much as you want. You can stick your tongue out at me. I don't care what. You can say whatever you want to me. That's what you're here for. You're here to give your input. And unfortunately, this went viral. It went worldwide, and people have totally misinterpreted what I was trying to accomplish. We are in the process of reviewing the Chapter 2 of our code book, and this is a component of that part, and I wanted to make sure that this never occurs again. I want to make sure that people have that opportunity to speak openly and frankly with the City Council. You have that right. That's what we're here for, is to hear what you have to say.
Thank you, Alderman. All righty. Anybody else? Any other reports? Okay. I will, looking at number 8, which is an ordinance, and looking at the fact that we have a lot of aldermen on vacation and not here tonight, I will ask for a motion and a second to table this to the first meeting in September, when we'll actually have aldermen present in full and not have half the council on vacation here. So with that, I ask for a motion and a second. Alderman Hipskin with a motion. Alderman Kennedy with a second to table this to the first meeting in September. Can we do that by a voice vote, citizens?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor? Oh.
Any discussion?
Any discussion?
Really no discussion on the motion.
Discussion? Alderman Pezza?
Yes, I know this has been tabled several times, and I think it's an important item, and I'm just curious as to why we find the need this evening not to vote on this. I mean, I purposely came to this meeting because it's an important agenda, a lot of important things to vote on here, and here we are again pulling it once again.
Yeah.
I hate to do this, but a motion to table is not a debatable item. I mean,
That's
no,
right.
it's not.
That's right.
Motion to table is not debatable.
You know what, Alderman? You're perfectly correct. So,
I don't mean to interrupt, but we got to follow our rules.
yeah, that's correct. I would, I'd ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll on this one, please.
Hipskin.
Aye.
I believe it was Healy?
Nope.
No?
It was me.
I
Kennedy.
didn't get the second.
Aye.
I'm sorry. Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Wagner, absent. Gutenkopf.
Yay.
Pezza.
No.
Shea.
No.
Leader.
Aye.
Rose. Absent. Bram.
No.
York. Absent. Nybo.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Morley, absent. Okay. Like 6, yeah. 6 ayes, 4 nays, and 4 absent.
6 ayes, 4 nays, and 4 absent. That motion to table the ordinance passes. And to item number 9.
Order. It didn't get 8 votes.
It doesn't.
It's a table. So
It doesn't need 8 votes. It just needs a majority. If it was to be the ordinance itself, the main ordinance, it would need 8 votes. But not a motion, not a motion to table, nor a motion to refer. All ordinances, expenditure of funds need, as you're pointing out correctly, 8 votes. But not this motion.
And
Just
I'd
a
like to
simple
make a motion
majority.
to remove
Just
it.
a simple majority of those present.
Ready. On to item,
Well, I'd like to make a motion to take this from the table.
The motion was to set first Monday.
And a motion to take this, I want to make a motion to take this from the table.
I'll second.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Graham.
so we have a motion and a second to take this from the table. Is that,
Well, I'm not sure.
That even-
It was tabled to a date certain.
That it's a qualified motion and it is debatable.
I don't know that it's a qualified motion. you're looking at the, I don't know if it's a qualified motion or not, Diane, to be honest with you.
We either have a motion to lay it on the table with no qualifications, which is not debatable, or a motion with qualifications, which is a date certain, which is a qualified motion.
I'm not, to be honest with you, without having Robert's rules in front of me, I don't know that this is a qualified motion or not. But I mean, the council can waive your own rules if you want to debate this, I guess.
Alderman, I think,
so you're,
I think it's tabled till the first meeting in September, and I'm the chair, and we
do you want to, I'm not quite even sure, Alderman, what motion, what you're moving to do.
I'm moving to remove this tabled ordinance from the table.
Well, then, I think it's probably just easy enough that if that's a motion, and it's been properly seconded, and it gets a majority vote of the people here, then we can address it, I guess is the best way to handle this. And if it can't, then it fails.
Okay.
So there's a motion on the table to remove the item, put the item back on the dais. And I think we probably should just do a roll call vote.
Okay. I'd ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll, please.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Bram.
Aye.
Hipskin.
Nay.
York, absent. Nybo.
No.
Healy.
No.
Morley, absent. Kennedy.
No.
Mulliner.
No.
Wagner, absent. Pezza.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Leader.
Nay.
Rose. Absent. I think that's everybody. So we have 4 ayes, 6 nays, and 4 absent.
4 ayes, 6 nays, 4 absent. That motion to put back on the dais fails, as expected. So, on to item number 9, other business. Any other business at this time? Alderman Nybo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. An observation. If members of the body want to opine as to whether we should have taken the action we just took, we should have an opportunity for them to express their opinion. I mean, procedurally, I guess it's improper to debate a motion to table, but I query to the chair and to the body whether we can suspend the rules and let anybody who wants to express an opinion on what we just did express an opinion.
That's a good thought. All righty. Very good.
The answer is, you're right.
Alderman Mulliner?
Could do that.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. You're absolutely correct. We could suspend the rules. There's no question to do that. This is also one of the chapters that we're going through right now, and these are things that we can make corrections to. And fortunately, we're running into some of these things, and we can make those corrections.
If I still have the floor, Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
I mean, as a general practice, if somebody wants to say something, we should endeavor to let them say what they want to say. So if Alderman Gutenkopf or Alderman Pezza want to express an opinion on what we just did, they can, and I'd be happy to explain why I was a yes vote to table.
Very good. And other business, item number 9, Alderman Gutenkopf, you have other business?
No, I was just going to agree with Alderman Nybo, and he's right. If people wanted to discuss it and he wanted to suspend the rules so that discussion could have taken place, then that would have been great.
All right. I believe we can bring this up under, if you have issues too, we can bring this up under other business or other portions of, no, is that correct or no? If that's something, no, can't do that.
I don't think so.
That's going to gray area, okay.
I think your suggestion is right on.
All right.
All right.
A
Alderman
motion to
Nybo.
suspend the rules and allow continued discussion.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to suspend rules and allow discussion on,
Table the ordinance.
Point of order.
But-
We've already tabled the ordinance. We
Yeah.
can't do it now. We could have done it prior to the vote, but we cannot do it now. We can't, I mean, we really have to follow our ordinances, or we have to throw our ordinances out and start over again. Right now, if we just say we're going to change the rules, we can't do that. We've got to follow the ordinances. If we wanted to suspend the rules, we had to do it at the time prior to the vote.
very good.
I may be wrong, but
You're right.
We can ask the city attorney to clarify, but I believe I'm correct.
I believe you're right, Alderman, and we appreciate that, and we will continue on with our meeting. So, and if this issue comes up again, we can make the motion before we actually vote on the table. So, okay, other business, item number 9. Any other business?
My referral.
Oh, you know what? I don't have the current agenda. I apologize. I got it, yeah. Item 9A, I apologize, I didn't have an updated agenda, is a request. And I have Clerk Spencer read the request, please.
It's a request for a comprehensive City of Elmhurst storm and sanitary capital improvement plan from Alderman Bram to refer it to the Public Works and Buildings Committee.
Okay. And after conferring with City Manager Borchert and City Attorney Storino, we're thinking of having this go to a committee of the whole versus strictly the Public Works Committee. Is that correct, City Manager Borchert?
That was kind of a
Okay.
kind of discussion.
Right.
On the table was flood stuff, do it all.
Exactly. We'll do it all at once. Committee of the whole. Perfect. Okay. And I need a motion and a second to put this. Do we have to vote on a referral? I don't believe we have to do that. Okay, so it goes through. So we'll do that as committee of the whole.
Yes, we do, I think.
Okay, we'll ask for a motion and a second. I apologize. Alderman Brown with a motion? Yes? Second by Alderman Hipskin. And all in favor by voice vote, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Referral passes, and we'll go to committee of the whole. And item number 10, announcements.
One piece of other business, if you don't
Oh, I
mind.
apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Certainly, this has been a really terrible time here in Elmhurst the last month. Grew up in this town, cleaned out many basements myself over the years, and cleaned out a few more over the last couple of weeks. Certainly, the situation on Washington, my wife grew up down the street, and lots of people that she knows down there very terribly affected. Mr. Borchert did a phenomenal job last week in spite of an unenviable task of standing up and being the one-man firing squad to the residents. So he did a great job, and thank him for that. In terms of what we can do immediately, there's already been some things thrown out there, but what I would like to do on behalf of the Public Works Committee is to direct city staff to take an amount of money that's currently in the utility fund and direct staff to continue the use of the overhead sewer program so that we can expedite actions for specific residents that have problems with their sanitary sewer system and move forward on that. And we've had discussions. We'd like to take $200,000 that's already part of that budget and move forward and direct city staff to do this immediately.
Okay. So Chairman Kennedy, Chairman of the Public Works Committee, is asking for a motion to...
It's just a directive.
Or direction to go ahead and move those funds from the capital.
They're already in there.
Okay.
Already piece of that. I know.
It's a referral.
So, point of order.
Point of order.
I mean, this is already a referral, and I just want to make sure we don't tread on debate of an issue that's already being referred to a committee or committee of the whole. So duly noted, and I think it's a good recommendation, but I don't want to tread on debating an issue that's going to committee.
Okay, very good. All righty. Anything else? Other business? Okay.
So, actually, I have a question
Sure.
for Alderman Kennedy.
Sure.
So this is a referral going to,
Committee of the whole.
Public
Committee of the
Works.
whole.
Yeah.
So, then a question for, are all these referrals going to a committee of the whole?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the end.
Okay, good.
Very good.
Sure.
Okay. Any other business? Alderman Healy.
I pass, sorry, no.
Okay, that's okay. Okay. Anybody else? Alderman, excuse me, City Manager Borchert.
Just so there'd be an understanding from the city council as to what operations is doing, there'll be probably next Monday a committee of the whole meeting before the regular committee meetings to deal with all of the flood-related matters of referral. to wait for that committee of the whole determination as to then council actions going forward. Very appropriate. On the operations side, city staff has already fielded approximately 35 as of 5 o'clock today requests for the application material for the city's overhead sewer program. We will advise those folks to fill out those forms. We'll advise them, consult, counsel them as to how to get in line. We'll allow folks to get in line for the overhead sewer program and report to the committee of the whole meeting how, from a staff perspective, we believe it would be an appropriate redirection of already budgeted dollars in the utility fund to allow for a financial support to this demand, and we'll work with individuals between now and then to give them the material they need so they can start their planning and start their decision making, subject to recommendations coming out of that committee of the whole. So we won't ask folks to wait. We'll work with them until, understanding you're probably meeting on an expedited basis. We'll know in a week or two, and the design and the work with the plumbing or an architect is going to take that same week or two. So folks will be able to work in parallel with the decision making.
Alderman Healy.
Okay, now I do have a question, just based on what City Manager Borger said. So I think what, and Alderman Kennedy and I discussed this, I think the important thing, to Alderman Kennedy's point, was we want to move quickly. And overhead sewer lines, while not the magic bullet, certainly would have saved a lot of people a lot of grief last Saturday. I think what is most important to us is that those 35 plus, somebody else that may have been on the list previously, we don't slow them up at all. So if what I'm hearing City Manager say is we can start applications and doing, advising, the last thing I as a city would like to tell these residents is no, or you gotta wait. I think what I'm hearing is staff can do that, get approval from the council, whether it's directionally next week and then by council action the following week at actual city council, that's fine. Speaking for myself, I think Alderman Kennedy, we just don't want to delay that process. We want to go. These folks want to go. Some of these folks who got sewer water last week have already repaired their homes, and they want to know that it won't happen again, or hopefully won't happen again. I just don't want to have to tell them, no, or you got to wait. Am I correct on that?
City staff will allow folks to go forward, until the council says the money's available. We would have to say, subject to the council providing the dollars, but we can track and we can put them in line, and as soon as the money's available, they'd get the money. Typically, there's a month before they contract, get the work done, get the bill, receive the bill, pay their bill, and then submit the bill to the city for reimbursement. So I think folks will be able to work in parallel with the city and not lose a step if they wish to proceed.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Alderman Mulliner.
I just have one comment that I have to make, and I know the city council is wholeheartedly behind the concept of doing this, but until we make that vote to go ahead and approve those dollars are not available. So we have to keep those things in mind as we're moving forward. That's not saying that we're not going to do it. That's just saying everybody has to keep those things in mind. And I know we're all in support of this, but let's make sure we do it in the right process.
Very good. Okay. Anybody else? Announcements. Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Nybo and I have been discussing mentioned it to Mayor and city staff. We think it's very important to have a ward meeting, so we have tentatively planned Thursday, August 19th as a 5th ward meeting. We are still working with the Knights of Columbus Hall to secure that location, so it's not definite yet. Once we get a definite on the location, we will be going door to door with flyers, with the date and the time. Well, the date is set. It's going to be August 19th, but the specific location and the time, there'll be more information coming, but we wanted to make sure we got that out there today, that there will be a 5th ward meeting on August 19th. Emails will go out, and we will go to door with flyers. Thank you.
Very good. Well done. Anybody else for announcements? City Manager Borchert.
It's more for the council and the folks here, but there will be a mosquito adult eye sighting tomorrow done by our contract provider. The numbers are up and justified. The council earlier had authorized the budgeting for this, the direction for this, and there'll be an adult-eye sighting for mosquito control tomorrow, subject to weather, and they continue to monitor the nuisance levels and the disease issues associated with this. So there will be, again, control for mosquitoes tomorrow throughout the entire community.
Very good. Anybody else for announcements? All right. Many of us were at the ECAF outing today honoring Mayor Tom Marcucci, who was celebrated as a friend of the children. So they had a nice full house, and I know they raised a lot of money for ECAF and for kids with challenges throughout town. But I think importantly, hats off to Mayor Marcucci for being the recipient this year. I wish I could have been there for dinner, but we got to see him during the day for golf, and it was a great day for ECAF, for Elmhurst, and for our former mayor. So, anybody else? Alderman Gutenkopf?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Pezza and I send out periodic emails to residents of the First Ward. And every once in a while, we make an announcement about our email address. If you would like to receive periodic announcements from Alderman Pezza and myself, send us an email to Ward1 News. That's WARD, the number 1, news @comcast.net. We'll put you on our email list, and you'll get our newsletters.
Very good. Any other announcements? Hearing none, I ask for a motion to adjourn. Alderman Healy, Alderman Kennedy, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.